We are here with Make It Hacking, who designed not one, not two, but 3 different badges this year. And what I love about this one is each one is a really completely different take on a new badge.
Yep.
So what's the first one we're looking at right here?
The first one that we have here is a Learn to Solder badge, and I definitely like to have people learn things. So the Learn to Solder badge is, there's a lot of people that come to DEF CON and do things for the first time. So, and there's a lot of Learn to Solder badges out there. This year, I wanted to stick with the homecoming theme and make a homecoming themed badge. And this one is supposed to be like a varsity letter that's on like a Letterman jacket. So DC is for DEF CON, and yeah, you turn it on and it blinks. It also has a couple SAO ports that support low power SAOs.
And the thing I really like about this too is as a Learn to Solder kit, not only you're not dealing with all the surface mount things and like that. You have some LEDs, you have some resistors. I love the fact that there's SAO ports on it just because there's so many. The simple add-ons, definitely not the shitty add-ons, but that's another story. But you get those, there's so many of great ones out. And I think you built an SAO. Before we get to that one though, what's the next badge you have?
The next one that we have here is the Spider badge. So the Spider badge was originally created for the Hope Conference, which was last month in New York. And this is a retail security themed badge. So it has on the bottom 2 retail security tags. So if you were to take this into a retail security store, it would set off the alarm. So make sure you don't do that. It also has a built-in feature where it acts like a security tag. So I don't know if you've ever seen those security tags that are around like TVs or like big boxes at a store. Those are called spider wraps. And if you cut the cord, the alarm goes off. This one, if you want to see a demo, we can load it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to scroll down to the Spider Tag demo, and I press start. Okay, so if you want to show that to the camera, right now we are in a like armed mode. So like right now, like everything's all good or whatever. But let's pretend that you cut the cord, which in this case is the USB-C cable. Just unplug it. And there now it starts like alarming. So that's supposed to kind of like act like the retail security tag that's on those things. Now, if you put the cord back on, it doesn't shut it off. And like a lot of retail security tags, it actually needs a magnet to disable it. So here, take this magnet, and the magnet sensor is right there. And it's going to either go one or 2 ways, but just kind of hold it up there. And if it's not the one way, it's the other way. There you go. You disarmed it. So a lot of retail security tags are disabled by magnets, so I wanted to make sure I incorporated that into the project.
That's really cool. What's really funny about this, too, is I imagine in Vegas, probably not a popular person if you're walking around with this armed throughout the stores.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's 2 different ones. There's 8.2 megahertz and 58 kilohertz.
Right. Yeah, so retail security systems are basically like one of 2 frequencies, kind of like high frequency, low frequency physical access. It's the same sort of thing. You have high frequency and low frequency security tags. So I put both on there to make sure that, whatever store you theoretically walk into, it's going to set off the alarms.
This is really cool. Now, when there's so many of these badges that were impacted with the chip shortage, did you hit this as well?
So I pretty much stuck with the same chip on this badge and my SAO, and I had a ton of them for other projects, which is the AT-Tiny 85. So luckily, I was not impacted by the chip shortage. There was maybe some delays from some of the manufacturers on some of the other things, but I didn't have to redesign anything.
That's good. Yeah, I know with MK Factor, it was crazy that what he had to do was design not almost like 3 different badges and keep getting replacement, and finally just order a chip he's never used before. That was amazing.
And if you want to learn more about that, you should watch his YouTube video on that. It's a really good video.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Let's check out the SAO that you designed.
So the SAO is in the theme of a talk boy from Home Alone 2. Again, trying to keep in theme with the homecoming theme. I wanted to throw it back to the 90s. And this is an alcohol sensor, sort of like breathalyzer type.
No way.
Yeah. So right now it's in a demo mode, but I'm going to reset it. And this is the menu screen. And then if we hit this button and then we go to press that button, right now it's got to stabilize. It's got to heat up the sensor. So it's going to say wait. And then when it's ready to have your breath sensed, you would blow into the tube when everything turns green, and then it'll give you a score.
How long does it usually take to heat on up?
Not too long. It's gotta stabilize, so it kind of depends. But
I mean,
yeah.
It's Vegas, and with the air right now, I'm amazed it doesn't just go off all the time.
Right.
This is cool. Tell me about some of the technology which is in this SAO.
Yeah, so it's actually not too complicated. If we look at the back, there's some buttons on the top.
Do you mind if I take it out?
Yeah, that's fine. So there's some buttons on the top. And underneath there, we have some bunch of resistors, capacitors. So all of the resistors and the input for the breathalyzer is on one signal. So this uses the AT-Tiny85. You don't have a whole lot to work with there, especially since I'm using a screen on the front. So I had to put all the inputs on one signal, which kind of makes things complicated when you're trying to like read button presses and also read the breathalyzer.
Weird question.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I have never interacted with a breathalyzer before, but I'm wondering, like, is it like a standard chip, or are you doing something like? Is it something special that you're doing with the breathalyzer? Like, or is there actually like a chip? You can use this to detect alcohol in someone's breath, or is that something you have to like kind of hack together?
So I don't know about all breathalyzers, but a lot of the cheap ones that you find on Amazon or eBay, things like that, use the sensor that I'm using, which is the MQ303A. There's also a 303B. I think the 303B measures half as good or something like that. And there's nothing really like, there's not a special chip that's doing anything. I'm just using the AT-Tiny85, which is the same chip that's on here. What is a little bit special is the circuitry. So on the back, all the circuitry relating to the breathalyzer is right around here. And all it's basically doing is making sure that enough current is getting pushed to the breathalyzer sensor, because it requires a certain amount of current and a certain voltage. So that board is powered at 3.3 volts, which is kind of like a standard. That breathalyzer sensor needs 0.9 volts. So a lot of that stuff is just taking that 3.3 and converting it down to 0.9.
Okay.
And then it's just an analog signal, and then you do a whole bunch of math to kind of figure out the value. Now, I'm not doing any. I'm trying to like stay clear of like I'm not trying to promote like gamification of drinking or anything like that. I'm also trying not to make an official like BAC level, because like I don't want anyone to use it and blow on it and be like assume that they're safe.
It's an add-on.
I think
anyone watching this, anyone buying this thing has to understand it's a shitty add-on.
Yeah.
Like it is. Again, simple add-on. That is the definition of SAO.
So you get a score from 0 to 60,000, and 60,000 would be like probably if you're like deceased because you've been drinking so much. So I would say, you're probably going to get if you've been drinking, you'll probably get a score in the 10, 20, 30,000 range, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think with so many of these things, like with a lot of the SAOs, I think when you're starting out building, you start with like blinking LEDs, because that's the first thing you learn. You first learn how to take power, run it through an LED, run it through a resistor, and have it turn on, and then you start moving towards like blinking. Yep. It's amazing how many of these SAOs have just leveled up.
Right.
When you like started, again, like I can admit I was wrong with Badgelife. Like for the longest time, I had this weird hate with Badgelife because I was like, it's just a blinky LED badge. It's just a blinky LED badge. And it was actually like Braden Lang, who on the channel had mentioned to me, saying like, well, that's how people start. And I was like, no, it's an obvious point that was missed on me because I've never done any of this before. When you started and got involved in this, like, how did you get involved? Because it wasn't like you didn't start with something sophisticated like this.
Right. I'm trying to remember what my first. So I studied physics in college, and I got my introductory into electronics there. I didn't start designing circuit boards probably until maybe 5 years ago or something like that. And it was like maybe once every in a while I would do something. But I did a lot of Arduino projects. Okay. And I think Arduino is really what got me into it. And I didn't mind doing like at the time I didn't mind doing like the circuit boards where they just come with a whole bunch of holes and you solder everything kind of how you want it. But like, it takes so long to do that if you're doing like a complicated circuit. So I was like, let me figure out how to design a circuit board. And now I only have to spend maybe 5 minutes soldering it rather than 2 hours because I'm not creating all the circuitry paths and things like that.
Yeah. Like, so how do you go from, we'll say, learning circuitry to then designing? Like, how long have you been designing badges?
Last year was my first badge.
Really?
But I've been doing like circuit boards for probably a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, these are so cool. If someone is actually interested in purchasing one of these, where can they go to get one?
Yeah, so they can go to my Tindy store. I should be restocking depending on the amount of people that are interested after DEF CON. I think everything's sold out. I still have a lot of the varsity Learn to Solder badges. So if you're at DEF CON this weekend, you can pick them up at the Hacker Warehouse, who's right here next door.
Yeah, who is most definitely not a sponsor, even though we're in their booth.
Yeah.
But we may be stealing some of their stuff to give away.
Yeah, nice.
Off the record. Well, kind of on the record. But point being,
yeah,
Hacker Warehouse is the one selling the Learn to Solder kits. What about the other ones?
The other ones are sold out right now. I may have some of the breathalyzers left, but I am going to wait until everything is given to the people who ordered them, and I still have to upload all the code to them. So I just want to make sure that I don't have any failures or a limited amount because I have some to like give out to people and things like that. So those are sold out right now. But if you want to get on the wait list, go to Tindy, search MakeItHackin', and you can get on a wait list.
This is great. Thank you so much for coming on. Come into the Hacker Hangouts booth.
Yeah.
Showing us what you got. I really appreciate it. What as a last tip, what are you looking forward most at conference?
Oh, that's very interesting because it's always a good question, and you guys do some really good videos on what do you come here for, and it's definitely I think at the beginning it was the talks, but it's not anymore. And I think this year it might be like trying to find a new village that I haven't been to yet, or just to meet people. There's some people that I've like met while I've been interacting on Twitter with. I've really been heavily on Twitter a lot more this last year. So
yeah, me as well.
Yeah, so just like seeing people, it's like, hey, I know you. So it's just cool to meet people like that.
I think that's one of my favorite things is like getting more involved in the community. All of a sudden you're like, oh, it's Make It Hacking. I know this person.
Yeah.
I know them. This is great. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Thanks for checking out the channel too.
Yeah.
And it's anyone who's watching, hack on.